students, I'm trying to see if the sound is picking up. I don't think it is. Hi students, I don't think this is working. Hey guys, thank you so much, first of all, for all your hard work in class. Last time, I know that grammar is not exactly a fun activity to do, but I really do appreciate you trying to learn this because it is going to make you a better writer. And when other people read your writing, they're going to know that you understand the English language and the rules and conventions that go with it. So it's going to end up making you a better person in the fact that people will respect your knowledge of writing. So please commit this to your knowledge. Don't just simply memorize it and then throw it away. Continue to practice these rules, and then whenever you come across something, a comma or a question, or you might not know how to use an adverb or adjective correctly, just Google it, look it up, take a couple minutes and use that as an opportunity to increase your knowledge. Because in our world that is driven by knowledge and who knows what, and we don't really have like necessarily manual skills like we did 50, 100 years ago. Now it's a matter of how can you unlock your knowledge to be successful for yourself, for a company, and for society. So I feel like this is just another opportunity for you to better yourselves and make yourselves more marketable. But enough on that. I know some classes got past the clauses, but most classes did not get past like compound sentences. So I'm going to go ahead and start here. If your class did get past here, please feel free to fast forward. I'm just going to go through very quickly the differences between phrases and clauses and then jump right into simple sentences. So, clauses, remember, have a subject and a verb. That's just the main idea of a clause. However, a clause that can stand by itself, it's a complete thought. It has a subject and a verb and it makes complete sentence. This is going to be an independent clause. If you have a clause where there is a subject and a verb but does not express a complete thought, then you know it's dependent. If you have a dependent clause, it must accompany an independent clause. Now, a lot of people still are struggling with the difference between a phrase and a clause. Okay? So a phrase is a group of words that does not contain a subject and a verb. So let's look down here. I think this explains it a little bit better. It can have a subject in it, but the subject will not be doing the action. In a clause, the subject will be doing the action. I guess that's the main difference. So let's look at an example. Let's do this one, before the first test. So I guess we could do the subject of this phrase is going to be test. First is serving as an adjective, and before is a preposition. But we don't know what happened before the first test. We know that that's going to be a prepositional phrase. Down here, so let's look at a clause, and let's look at the difference. I despise individuals of low character. So subject would be I. What do? I despise. What do I despise? Individuals of low character. And so those would be my direct object. So we have a subject, a verb, and expresses a complete thought. This is an independent clause. Simple enough? Let's move on. Okay, speaking of simple sentences. Simple sentences are going to have a subject and a verb. That's like the main requirements. But then they also can have an object that goes with it or a phrase that goes with it. But the thing that you have to keep in mind is that a simple sentence has one subject, one verb. If it's got more than that, then you're moving on into compound or compound complex sentences. But one subject, one verb equals simple sentences. So let's look at the example. Mr. Brooks teaches physics. Subject is Mr. Brooks. What does he do? He teaches. What does he teach? He teaches physics. Now, this one here is a little bit tricky because it is long. People always associate simple with short, but that's not necessarily the case. So that's why I said always look for the verb and then go find the subject. Kim is the president for her school. What is the verb? Verb is. It's a state of being verb. Who is? Kim is. What is she? The president for her school. There's not another subject. This is the object, and then for her school would be a phrase. So just make sure you're always looking for your subject and your verbs and make sure you know how many there are. Now we move on to compound sentences. Compound sentences are going to have two subjects, two verbs. Now, a lot of you guys write compound sentences, which is great, but the problem that I've seen in your essays so far is you do not know where to put your punctuation. So there are 3 different ways to punctuate a compound sentence. The fourth way would be if you were to divide the compound sentence into 2 separate simple sentences and separate them with a period. But here we've got the one where we're going to separate it with a comma and a coordinating conjunction. And remember, the coordinating conjunctions go back flip back a couple pages right here. Remember, coordinating conjunctions. Those are the fanboys, for, and, nor, but, or, yet, so. So you're going to have a comma plus a fanboy to combine them. So Mr. Brooks teaches physics and he coaches soccer. So we've got two subjects, Mr. Brooks being two subjects, Mr. Brooks being one, and he, the pronoun, being two. And we got two verbs, he teaches and he coaches, and we got two objects, physics and soccer, combined by a comma and a fanboy and. Your next option is going to be a semicolon. Now you have to be very careful when you choose to use a semicolon. A semicolon needs to be used when you are wanting to join two complete thoughts together, but you have to make sure those thoughts are related. If those thoughts are truly separate, you need to separate them by a period. Here, same sentence, Mr. Brooks teaches physics, semicolon, he coaches soccer. Same subjects, same verbs, same objects. Exact same sentence, just punctuated differently. The last one is a semicolon and a conjunctive adverb. So going back, flip back a couple pages. Here are our Here are your conjunctive adverbs. All of these different words that when you're going to use them in the middle of a sentence to bring two sentences together, you're going to use one of these words, so semicolon, of course, comma, and the rest of your another independent clause. So let's go look at the example. Flip back to where we were. Right here. Mr. Brooks teaches physics, semicolon, however, he also coaches soccer. So we just added in the word also, a however, semicolon, and the comma. This one, a lot of people use kind of right, but they always leave out this little comma, so don't leave him out, put him in. Okay, next one. So now we've done simple, now we've done complex. Simple has one independent, compound has at least two independent clauses, and then we move on to complex, where you get one of the independent, so one simple, and one dependent clause. Okay, so independent clause, remember again, it has to have at least a subject and a verb. It has to make sense. The dependent will also have a subject and a verb, but it will not make sense. And there's three different types of these. We're not really going to go into great detail on them. I just want you to look at an example. We'll go into, I'll make another separate video for you on clauses. But, let's see. We'll look at the adverb clauses because those are pretty easy. Let's look at this one right here. Okay, so remember adverbs, they're going to modify verbs, they're going to answer the questions when, where, why, and how. So when the rooster crowed, the farmer awoke. So what is our subject? Our subject is farmer. This is the. So that's an adjective and an article. So we have to ask the question, so when did he awake? When the rooster crowed is going to be the dependent clause. Now, why is it not a phrase? Because we've got the subject is rooster, and what is the rooster doing? It crowed. So we have subject and a verb. It just needs something else to make it complete sense. Okay? So we'll keep moving on. We'll skip past these, and like I said, I'll make you another video for that one. All right, now we move on to like the super sentence is what I think of compound complex sentences. This is where you're going to pretty much combine all these other strategies that you just looked at, all these other structures you just looked at, into one. So a compound complex sentence is going to have at least two independent clauses. You're going to have at least two subjects and two verbs, as well as one more dependent clauses. Again, another subject and verb, but does it make sense by itself? No. So let's look at the example here. The example is Anna, who is my neighbor, works in Philadelphia, but her husband works in Denver. All right, so we've got Anna. And what does Anna do? She works. Now let's find another subject, but her husband works in Denver. So subject would be husband. What does he do? He works. Where does he work? In Denver. Okay, so we've got a comma plus a conjunction here, so we know that they have correctly combined two complete thoughts. Now, what might throw you off is right here. Who is my neighbor? Is that a clause or a phrase? It's going to have to be a phrase because we don't know. Oh wait, no, I lied to you. It's a clause. Sorry, because you got the subject is who and the verb is. So it's renaming what Anna does. So yes. So there we go. See, even I have to think about it sometimes. So you got all those things together, and that's what's going to make a compound complex sentence. All right, now moving on. This is the last part of the grammar section, and we're going to fly through the phrases. But the grammar section here, these are the errors that I'm seeing from you, and I will tell you, in college, there are several professors that if you have for every fragment, run-on, or comma splice that you have, they will deduct a letter grade from your essay. So I'm obviously not that harsh, but you need to learn these rules, because if you are now aware of them. So every sentence, go through it and look at it and see, did I punctuate this correctly? Is it a run-on? Is it a fragment? Do I have a comma splice? And if you're not familiar with what those three errors are, here they are. Fragment. Fragments are incomplete sentences. And I know you're probably thinking, well, people write incomplete sentences. They do it all the time. And a lot of the reason is because in our colloquial English language, a lot of times we leave out our subject. And it's just implied, and we just remember, you don't write the way you speak. So let's look at the example here. A&M offers many majors in engineering. Okay, is that a complete thought? Yes. What is the subject? A&M. What does it do? It offers. What does it offer? Many majors in engineering. Great. All right. Such as electrical, chemical, and industrial engineering. Here is not a complete thought. We don't know who's doing this offering here. So you have to combine them together with a comma. A&M offers many majors in engineering, comma, such as electrical, chemical, and industrial engineering. So the problem with the fragment is you have a sentence like right here, or an attempt at a sentence that does not have a subject and a verb. Next one, run on. This is probably the most common one I see because you don't know where to put your punctuation. So this is where you have two sentences, so it's two subjects, two verbs, a compound sentence, and you do not put the correct punctuation in the middle. So my neighbor is 75 years old. He plays tennis every day. Now right here, remember, we're going to go back to your compound sentence, remember, and you've got three different ways that you can do it. The comma with a coordinating conjunction, a semicolon, and a conjunctive adverb. You do any of those three things with this situation right here, and you've got the correct sentence. My neighbor is 75 years old, semicolon, he plays tennis every day. Since those ideas were related, you could just simply use the semicolon. Last one is the comma splice. And again, this will probably be, you probably do fragments the least, this one the most, and this one the second most. This is where you have, again, not punctuated, like you'll have a comma, but you don't have the right either conjunctive adverb or coordinating conjunction to follow it, or semicolon, etc. Alright. So here, my neighbor is 75 years old. He plays tennis every day. So remember, anytime you have a comma and you've got two complete thoughts, what do you have to have? You have to have a fanboy, so we added in the but. So those are the three errors. Please be cognizant of them, and please, 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 when you are proofreading your paper and when you have other people proofread your paper, explain to them what those three errors are so they can look for them when they're editing your paper. Alright, we're going to fly through the phrases section here, because now that you know what a phrase is, right? It has a subject. It could have a subject, but it is not doing the action. It cannot stand by itself. And but the reason we use phrases is it really provides variety in your writing, and that's what we want. You got to think about poor Miss Green. Think about me. I've graded 150 essays, and if every sentence is structured the same way, subject verb, or independent clause, dependent clause, if you always are using the exact same structure over and over again, it gets really, really boring. So for the sake of my own sanity, please, please, please use phrases and independent clauses and vary them up the way you put them together. Okay? So phrases are always going to, whatever type of phrase they're called. So for example, we got prepositional phrase here. A prepositional phrase is always going to start with a preposition. Okay? So let's look at the example here. Around the corner is my favorite shoe store. So here we have the possibility of, subject, but right here, verb, and what is it? Your favorite shoe store. So you have subjects and verbs. Alright, down here at the end. Now, here's the common prepositions. Remember, anything that a rabbit can do to a tree or to a stump would count as a preposition. Remember that it shows space in time or space in a room. Now, an adjective prepositional phrase. So now this is where things kind of get a little hairy, and we'll practice these. Is now, what do adjectives do, right? Remember, they tell which one, what kind, how many, or how much. And then they're also going to be a preposition. So you got those questions that you're asking, plus they're going to start with one of these guys. So let's look at the example. The store around the corner is painted green. So what's the subject? Store. This is acting as an adjective.